Hi, so today is Wednesday of the second week of Lent, and we are going to deepen today in this theme of service with heart. Yesterday we were talking about the importance not just to serve as Christians, but to serve from the heart, to serve with love. And so today in these readings of the liturgy, we're going to deepen on this aspect, on how almsgiving has to be complemented with prayer. Now that's the key where service is done from the heart and with the heart, when we learn in our prayer to center on the source of love, so that when we serve out of love, out of generosity, and we serve joyfully. So as we're saying on the first week of Lent, that our almsgiving is an invitation to love with the same love of Jesus. And that is a love that has three particular characteristics. A love that is universal, a love that is selfless, and a love that is sacrificial. So these three characteristics are what makes Christian love distinct or different. In other words, how it can be an extraordinary charity, as Jesus says, is the perfection of love, as God the Father is perfect. So our call, or even a challenge, if you like, as Christians, is to learn how to love with the same love of Jesus universally for all, people we like, people we don't like, far and close. That's universal, a love that is selfless, that learns to grow, to recognize our own self-interest, and learning how to set them aside, and to grow in interest for what other people need, what other people also want in their lives. That's selflessness. And of course, sacrificial, which means sometimes giving up and sacrificing even something good from ourselves, as we see Jesus did on the cross. So why we say that this almsgiving or this quality of Christian love needs prayer is because we need a specific way of prayer that can place us in the source of such a love. As we said, it's not easy to love like this, and sometimes we can get tired, sometimes we can lose courage even, and let fear come into our hearts, fear for ourselves. So Jesus has taught us a prayer that removes the center from ourselves, so that we don't, it's a prayer that does not center so much in ourselves, but that centers in God. And that prayer is the Our Father, the Lord's Prayer as we call it. And if you notice, this prayer brings us immediately to center in God. And we say, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. So already the first desire is that his name may be held holy, and we are thinking about him. And the words also, your kingdom come, your will be done, is all about him. And only after that do we say, give us this day our daily bread. So the Our Father, or the Lord's Prayer that Jesus taught us, has this dynamic of bringing the center away from ourselves to center on God. And this week, this is what we are invited to in this exercise of prayer that complements almsgiving, which is to learn to bring the center away from ourselves and to place God in the center when we pray. So once again, the theme of this week is service with heart, or heartfelt service, and the need for prayer to bring our almsgiving to that way of loving like Jesus. So today we're going to take the readings of the liturgy itself, and they are a school of how to pray. They teach us how to pray in such a way. So the readings are Jeremiah chapter 18, 1 to 20, Jeremiah 18, 1 to 20, Psalm 30, and Matthew 20, 17 to 18. Matthew chapter 20, verses 17 to 18. So let's just go through them gradually as you read them. In brief summary, the first reading of Jeremiah, the prophet Jeremiah, speaks of the uncertainty of life, the uncertainty of the life of a prophet. He's afraid that he might be persecuted. In fact, he was. And somehow we can relate this to our own uncertainties in life. But the psalm is a response, which is a psalm of entrusting to God's loving care for me, loving and unfailing care for the prophet. So Psalm 30 says, into your hands, Lord, I commend my spirit. It is you who will redeem me, Lord. And that is what Jesus said on the cross, if you remember. Into your hands, Lord, I commend my spirit. So it's a psalm of entrusting. So if you see the balance here, that we can learn how to pray is in the midst of our uncertainties, how to learn how to entrust our lives to God's care. We know now there's a lot of uncertainty about the COVID-19 or the coronavirus. And there's sometimes an atmosphere of fear, atmosphere of too much worry. Why? Because of the uncertainty. We don't know what it is. We don't know its effects. Well, we're seeing some of its effects, but we don't know how to stop it. And in a world that is so used to control things, where we're used to want to know everything and how everything works, and if we see it could sometimes be exaggerated because of fear. And how in the midst of all this, as prophets in society, as Christians, to give light and taste to this world, we are also asked to exercise this trust in God and learn how to pray by entrusting our lives to God. Today, why not try to exercise this? Entrust your life to God. Pray in this way also, as the psalmist did in Psalm 30. It's beautiful. Into your hands I commend my spirit. It is you who will redeem me, O God of truth. Father, you are my God. You love all of us, and I trust you. And no matter what comes, it's still uncertain, and I don't know. And that's my human condition. But I want to live this day in trust. I don't want to live this day in anxiety. I don't want to live this day in fear, but in trust in you and to continue loving like you with trust. Now, for those who have a bit more time in our prayer, apart from this entrusting prayer for this day, I invite you to also look at the Gospel, where Jesus teaches us how to continue following him in service, but at the same time to allow God to purify our motivations for service. If you remember, this episode is about the mother of the brothers, the Zebedee brothers, when she asked Jesus if one of them could sit on his right and the other on his left when he enters his kingdom. Of course, this speaks about serving for the sake of recognition. And it's interesting to see that the Bible itself, the Gospels in those times already spoke about it. So it's not something new, that when we serve, we want something in return. Even though it's not money, it may not be other favors, but at least recognition. And here Jesus gives a lesson to them with two things in his answer. He says, to drink the cup that I will drink, you will do. It means continue serving. To live the life that I live, it's good. Continue. And he encourages his disciples to continue in a life of service and not to stop. That's the first point. Keep on serving. Almsgiving is still the most basic aspect of Christian life. But he gives a second point, purify your motivations for service. Don't do it just for recognition or for favors. And don't give up when people don't return the favor, when you are not recognized in your service. Don't stop. Go back to God and purify the reasons why you serve. And this is where Jesus presents his own example as a servant to us. And this is a very beautiful point for today's reflection. Jesus presents himself as a God who serves, the servant God. And there's this song that says, the servant king, our servant king. And this is the God we worship. And so this changes the quality of our prayer. When we come to worship God, we need to be aware that we are worshiping a God who serves. We are worshiping a servant God, and he asks us to follow him, to learn how to serve like him. So service is not just an external act. Service is an act of worship. Service is trying to imitate the God of service, and this is our Christian God. So it may be a surprise sometimes when we just stop to think about it. God is not one who needs us to serve Him. He wants us to follow Him, to serve like Him. So this is the challenge for this second week of Lent. Learning to give alms, but with heart. To learn how to do it like Jesus. And the question maybe that we can sum up with this reflection is, how can we do it this week? How can we practice serving with heart? And once again, we go back to the complement between almsgiving, service, Christian service, and prayer. And the simple words I would like to invite us to live with this is, how to live this is serve with Him. This week, practice serving with Jesus. Practice serving in dialogue with Him. To speak with Him as you serve, not to serve alone. Sometimes that is what kills us, or kills our spirit of service, when we feel that we are alone. Serve with Him and learn how to enjoy serving with Him. And I think this is a very important aspect of our Christian lives. Our prayer is not only in the moment when we sit down and we have a silent time and we talk to God. Prayer is meant to help us to learn to pray during the day, practicing the presence of God, practicing talking to Him, listening to Him, practice enjoying His company, and especially this week, practice serving in His company and enjoying serving together. It's like when you are doing any service at work or in the home, it's different when you do it with someone. And so prayer, or this week, we are asked to learn how to serve with Jesus, to practice doing it with Him. As Jesus said on the first day on Ash Wednesday, the first day of Lent, it says, "Your Father who sees all that you do in secret will reward you." So it's like it's your own deal with Jesus. Serve with Him in the small hidden things that people do not see. Practice in the small details and learn to receive the reward from God, the recognition from God that the Zebedee brothers were asking for. Serve with Him in the small things, enjoy it with Him, and learn to receive the reward from Him. So I just leave you with the words of Jesus to the Zebedee brothers and to His mother. Sometimes we don't know whether it was His mother or the brothers. Some commentators say that they put the mother there so that they don't embarrass the brothers who are the actual ones who are asking for that favor from Jesus. But once again, the response of Jesus is, the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and to give His life as a ransom for many. And these words are like can be a mantra for us even today. Jesus, God, came not to be served, but to serve. I came as a God of service. I came to show you the way to fulfillment, to happiness, to real joy. And that's to learn how to serve from the heart. So I'm with you. I will teach you along the way. Learn to live with me. And this is the invitation of Jesus with these words. Not to be served, but to serve. And from there, to give my life as a ransom for many.